Hey everyone, my name is Nathan Cooper, and welcome back to SIS Film Breakdowns. The next division we are going to take a look at is the NFC North. When looking at our draft grades, the NFC North overall ranked pretty low among all divisions, with the Lions being the only team outside the bottom 10, but still picked up some talented players. Let's go ahead and take a look at a few of the prospects drafted into this division. The first team up is the Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears were without a first round pick, so their first pick came in the second round at pick number 43, where they took Cole Kmet. Kmet broke out this past season and should prove to be a solid weapon for whoever Chicago decides to play at quarterback. Their next selection was 7 picks later when they took Utah cornerback Jalen Johnson. We're going to take a closer look at what Johnson brings to Chicago's defense. At the combine, Johnson measured in just under 6 feet at 5 feet 11 and 7/8 inches, 193 pounds. He put up some good numbers in drills, which included a 36.5-inch vertical, a 7.01 3-cone, and a 4.13 shuttle. A second-team AP All-American in 2019, Johnson declared for the draft after his junior season. The Bears selected him in the second round with the 50th overall selection. We're going to take a look at 2 plays from his 2019 game against Washington. This first play against Washington sees Johnson lined up at the top of the screen in off coverage. It's going to be a cover 3 look, and he's going to bail a bit at the snap. He's already in his zone turn with his hips pointed to the middle of the field. The receiver runs a 10-yard out here, and Johnson, playing with his hips to the field, really has to stick his foot in the ground, open up his hips, and accelerate quickly to the receiver. This shows really good reactive athleticism and hip fluidity, as Johnson likely makes a play on the ball if it's on target. Now he's lined up at the bottom of the screen in off man, this time in a 0 look on second and long. At the snap of the ball, he stays in a low, quick back pedal as the receiver eats up his cushion. Once the receiver breaks on the out route, Johnson does a great job of sticking his foot in the ground and quickly transitioning to break on the throw. Due to pressure, the ball is underthrown with less velocity, allowing Johnson to jump up and easily pick it off and take it back for 6. Of course, the poor throw is what resulted in the interception, but with how quickly he played the route and broke on the ball, even a good throw is at least knocked away here. Johnson has the ability to excel in off-man, press-man, and zone coverage, and should become a solid cover corner for Chicago. When taking a look at last season, we see that Johnson only gave up a 28% positive play rate in man coverage and a 35% positive play rate in zone coverage. In addition, his 4.9 yards allowed per target ranked 10th among defensive backs with at least 40 targets. Next is the Detroit Lions. The Lions had the number 3 overall pick, and while many thought they could trade back, they held strong and took Ohio State corner Jeffrey Okudah. With the loss of Darius Slay, Detroit desperately needed a top-end corner, and maybe they found their guy. At the top of the second round, they grabbed DeAndre Swift to pair with Kerryon Johnson in the backfield. We're going to take a look at a couple of their mid-round selections from the Big Ten: Ohio State guard Jonah Jackson and Wisconsin wide receiver Quintez Cephas. Jackson measured in at 6 feet 3.5 inches, 306 pounds at the combine. Though he isn't going to test incredibly well in shorts, he showed good strength by putting up 28 reps on the bench press. A grad transfer from Rutgers to Ohio State in 2019, Jackson started 14 games at guard for the Buckeyes en route to being named a third-team AP All-American. The Lions then selected him in the third round at pick number 75 overall. We're going to take a look at a couple plays from his games this past season against Wisconsin and Clemson. This first play against Wisconsin is going to be an outside zone play to the left. Jackson is lined up at left guard, which is where he played almost entirely during the 2019 season for Ohio State. With the defender lined up to his inside in a 2-eye, we see that when he comes off, he gets a good chip on him to allow his center time to reach and take over. Jackson then moves up to the second level to get the linebacker, and at the point of attack, Jackson is balanced, under control, and in good position. He doesn't just try to stay in front of him, but he gets his hands on with good placement, drives his feet back, and driving the defender a good 5-6 yards downfield through the whistle. This next play comes against Clemson in the college football playoff. He's again lined up at left guard, and this time he's in pass pro. At the snap, Clemson gives a little bit of a look like they're going to stunt, so Jackson gives a shove to the defender in front of him, waiting for number 3 Xavier Thomas to loop his way. When he drops back into coverage to take the back out of the backfield, Jackson does a great job here of not just standing around but looking for work. He helps out his center on the nose tackle by giving a strong shove to knock him down, and then proceeds to finish him off. Jackson plays with good smarts and awareness in both the run and pass game and finishes his blocks. He'll likely get an opportunity to see playing time early on in Detroit. We can see that when running to his gap during the 2019 season, his ball carriers averaged 5.9 yards per attempt, 3.1 yards before contact, and produce a positive play over half the time. Next, let's take a look at Quintez Cephas out of Wisconsin. At the combine, Cephas measured in at 6 feet and 7/8 of an inch, 202 pounds. He's not going to wow in most combine drills, but he did post 23 reps on the bench press and an impressive 38.5-inch vertical. After a solid start to his 2017 season, he missed the last few games due to a leg injury and then missed the entire 2018 season due to a suspension. He came back strong in 2019 to lead the team in most receiving categories. Detroit selected him in the 5th round with the 166th overall pick, and we're going to take a look at one of his plays against Ohio State. Cephas is lined up at the top of the screen as a single receiver to the left of the formation and playing across from Raiders first round pick Damon Arnett. He's going to run a go route here. And off the line, Cephas gives a quick stutter and then gets down the field. Since he isn't a blazer, Arnett is able to stay with him, and due to that lack of speed, Cephas has to be stronger and more technical in gaining separation. As the ball arrives, Cephas is able to come up with a strong contested catch and drags defenders for nearly another 15 yards. Now, once we get to the other angle, we can see that aside from being a great ball by the quarterback, Cephas uses his offhand to swipe down and create the slightest bit of separation. He then makes a tough grab and gains valuable yardage after the catch. Cephas brings with him to Detroit the type of possession receiver you look for across the middle and in crowds of defenders. Looking at last year's stats, we see he only had one drop on the season for nearly a 95% on-target catch rate, which ranked 15th among all receivers with at least 75 targets. The Packers ranked last among our post-draft grades, but that doesn't mean they didn't grab a few solid players. Their first-round pick was a shocker in Jordan Love, who is thought to now be the heir apparent to Aaron Rodgers. Though many thought this selection was a couple years too early, Love has some elite traits and can sit back and learn behind Rodgers. Their second-round pick is who we are going to take a look at, and that's Boston College running back A.J. Dillon. A.J. Dillon joins a crowded Packers backfield, though Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams are both in the final year of their contracts. At the combine, he measured in at 6 feet and 3/8 of an inch, 247 pounds. Among other numbers, he put up an outstanding 41-inch vertical jump, which was tops among all running back participants. Dillon burst onto the scene as a freshman, rushing for over 1,500 yards and being named ACC Rookie of the Year. As a junior in 2019, he ran for 1,685 yards and 14 touchdowns, on his way to becoming a third-team AP All-American. The Packers drafted him late in the second round at pick number 62 overall. Let's take a look at one of the plays from his big game last year against North Carolina State. This play against NC State sees Dillon lined up as the single back with 3 tight ends at the end of the line on the right side of the formation. This looks to be a duo run to the right side. He does a good job bouncing to the right here once he gets the handoff and presses the outside before seeing the hole open up. Once he gets through the line, he's now one-on-one with the safety and sidesteps him, then steps through and spins out of another tackle. Once a defender finally gets on his back, he's still able to carry defenders and gain another 10 yards on the play for a big gain. While Dillon won't make a lot of finesse moves to get by defenders, his strong lower half makes him tough to bring down and gain extra yards after contact, something that he'll bring to Green Bay. When looking at his 3-year career, we can see how his runs have broken down by run direction. Even though most of his runs have gone between the tackles, he was most efficient running outside to the left, where he picked up 5.5 yards per carry on over 1,400 yards with 13 touchdowns. The Minnesota Vikings came away with 15 draft picks, far and away the most in the 2020 draft. Their 2 first-round picks and receiver Justin Jefferson and corner Jeff Gladney both filled needs and were among the top at their positions in this class. They both should provide an immediate impact on their respective sides of the ball for the Vikings. But 2 players that I want to highlight are mid-round picks Troy Dye, linebacker out of Oregon, and KJ Osborne, wide receiver out of Miami. First up is Troy Dye. At combine, he measured in at 6 feet, 3¼ inches, 231 pounds, although he didn't participate in drills as he was still recovering from a knee injury. Even with battling through some injuries, Dye has been a consistent contributor to the Ducks defense over the past 4 seasons, finishing 3rd in program history in tackles and 4th in tackles for loss. The Vikings drafted him in the 4th round, number 132 overall. We're going to take a look at a couple of plays from his 2018 bowl game against Michigan State and 2019 game against Auburn. This first play against Auburn is against the run. Dye is lined up right in the middle of the defense, and Auburn is running a misdirection end around, faking a pass to the left and giving the end around to the right. Now, if we watch Dye from the snap here, we can really see how he diagnoses the play, reads and reacts, and breaks downhill. He diagnoses it right away, doesn't get fooled, and the tackle gets to the second level, attempts to block Dye, but Dye does a great job here, taking him head on and getting his hands on with good extension, controlling the block and throwing him aside to get in on the tackle. The next play is from the 2018 bowl game against Michigan State. Dye is lined up in the middle of the field, and the wide view here is played at full speed to get a sense of the actual speed and burst. At the snap, Dye is going to slow play a rush to the quarterback. He finds an open hole and shows the speed and burst to run him down and get the sack here. When we get to the tight copy and slow things down, we can really see how savvy of a move this really is by Dye. After the snap, he really slowly creeps towards the line, and as soon as the guard turns his head thinking he doesn't have a threat, Dye shoots the gap and runs the rookie down for a big sack. This is a smart and savvy play by Dye. Dye is a versatile linebacker that makes some plays in the run game and can also play coverage, something that is pretty consistent among all Vikings linebackers. We can see from his career that he had at least 82 tackles in each season, and he led the Ducks in tackles all 4 seasons, the only player in Oregon history to do so. He'll just need to cut down a little bit on the broken tackles at the next level. Finally, let's take a look at KJ Osborne out of Miami. In Indianapolis, he measured in at 5 feet 11.5 inches, 203 pounds. He put up some good numbers in drills, including a 37.5-inch vertical jump and a 7-second flat 3-cone. Osborne came to Miami in 2019 after spending his first 4 seasons at Buffalo. He posted 50 or more catches each of the last 2 seasons with 12 touchdowns. The Vikings drafted him late in the 5th round with the 176th overall selection. We're going to take a look at a play from his 2018 game against Eastern Michigan while he was at Buffalo and play from his 2019 game against North Carolina with Miami. The first play comes from his time at Buffalo against Eastern Michigan in 2018. He's lined up as the single receiver to the left of the formation at the top of the screen. After giving a slight stutter off the line, Osborne gets into his route quickly with speed. Though I'd like to see him stack the DB a little bit more once he gets on top of him, he does a good job using his offhand well to create some separation. Now, right here, as the DB is in good position, he's able to use that offhand to gain an extra yard and slow him down. Osborne tracks the ball really well all the way in, makes a good grab for a long touchdown here. And that's actually only one of the ways that he can beat you. Now let's take a look at this past season with him in a Miami uniform against North Carolina. He's lined up at the bottom of the screen and is going to run a quick slant here. Now, at the snap of the ball, he gives some quick foot movement to set up his route. He then breaks inside on the slant and is able to lay out and make a nice grab for an off-target catch and a touchdown, with the corner draped all over him. Not only can he win deep, but he can also win at the line and convert on short yardage throws. His final season at Buffalo and only season in Miami had some similarities, but were quite different. In 2018, he lined up most of the time in the slot and saw a catchable catch less than half the time. In 2019, he mostly lined up outside, and his catchable catch rate improved by nearly 10%. One constant was that he was a recipient of a lot of air yards on his catches, showing that he can actually stretch the field. In addition to his skills as a receiver, he's also providing some ability as a return man. When I studied Osborne in 2018 while he was at Buffalo, he reminded me of Isaiah Burse coming out of Fresno State. It's possible that he could be a similar kind of player as a return man and depth receiver for the Vikings. Now, what questions need to be answered moving forward in the NFC North? Do the Packers have enough firepower around Aaron Rodgers to win the division yet again? Did the Vikings effectively replace enough of the secondary to slow down opposing offenses? Who is going to be the starting quarterback in Chicago? Can the Lions stay healthy and finally make a run and compete all season long? We'll see what sort of contributions the 2020 draft class has on the NFC North over the next few seasons and find out what the answers are to these questions. Make sure to go get the SIS Football Rookie Handbook or register for a free trial in the SIS DataHub to see all of these stats and more for every player, and also tune in each week to the Off the Charts podcast. Thanks for watching SIS Film Breakdowns.